It was supposed to be an ordinary Wednesday evening. I got home from work a little earlier than usual. The rain outside had started falling in heavy sheets, making the city look like it was crying. I remember thinking it was the perfect night to just curl up with my wife, maybe open a bottle of wine. Nothing seemed out of place. The house was warm, the lights low, and I could smell her cooking from the kitchen. I walked in, loosened my tie, and called out her name. Lena. She answered cheerfully from the kitchen, her voice as sweet and melodic as always. She was making pasta, her favorite. She kissed me on the cheek when I entered, asked how my day was, smiled like she always did. God, that smile. That same smile I had fallen in love with 8 years ago. That smile that, looking back now, unresolved, feels like a mask, something she wore while hiding the most unimaginable truths. We sat down to dinner and talked about mundane things. Her coworker drama, the neighbor's new car, the vacation we kept delaying. She laughed, she teased me. Everything felt normal. Until my phone buzzed, it was a news alert. Another body had been found. The garden killer, they were calling them. A nickname because the bodies were always buried in public gardens or community spaces, tucked neatly beneath flower beds or behind bushes. The police didn't have much, just that the victims were all men, varying ages, no apparent connection. But this time, the alert mentioned something new. They had a suspect, a blurry photo from a traffic cam. Something about it caught my eye. I stared at the screen for a moment too long. Lena asked what was wrong, but I shook my head. I didn't want to ruin the mood. I told myself. I told her it was nothing, just work emails. But the image stuck with me. There was something familiar about the outline, the hair, the jacket. Later that night, when she was asleep, I got up and stared at that photo again. It was stupid. I knew it couldn't be her. It was just a coincidence. But the more I stared, the more uneasy I felt. The way the figure held herself, the way she walked in the grainy video they released the next day. It reminded me of Lena. I tried to brush it off, but curiosity got the better of me. I started noticing things. Little things. There were nights she came home late, saying she was working late with friends, but when I asked which ones, the stories felt vague. She had a storage unit I'd never seen. She'd always joked it was just old junk from college. And there was this locked drawer in her writing desk. She always kept the key to herself. I wasn't a suspicious husband. At least, I thought I wasn't. But something gnawed at me. Finally, one afternoon while she was out, I found the spare key she didn't know I knew about. I opened the desk drawer. Inside, there were photos, men. Random-looking men, faces I didn't recognize. Some looked like selfies, some looked like surveillance photos. Then there was a notebook. Names, dates, locations. Short, cryptic descriptions. Soft jawline, likes jogging in evenings. Talks too much, wears that awful yellow tie. Notes about routines, about weaknesses. I felt sick. I convinced myself it was some kind of research project, a writing exercise. She was into crime novels, after all. But there was more. Newspaper clippings. Each victim of the garden killer. Highlighted sections. Circled dates. My hands trembled. I wanted to believe this was some elaborate misunderstanding. But the air was cold and dead around me. And deep down, I knew. I knew before I wanted to admit it. I closed the drawer, locked it back, put everything exactly where it was. For days, I said nothing. I watched her more carefully. Every movement, every gesture. She was still the same woman. Warm, affectionate, thoughtful. But now, it all felt like a performance, and I was the audience too naive to realize the act. I started checking her phone when I could. She was cautious, but not perfect. There were contacts saved under fake names, GPS searches for remote parks, secluded gardens, purchases on obscure websites, gloves, garden tools, heavy-duty plastic. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I followed her. She said she was meeting her friend Claire for drinks. But instead of the city center, she drove toward the outskirts. She parked by a community park, waited in the car for almost an hour, texting. Then a man arrived, mid-40s maybe. They talked briefly. She smiled, touched his arm, flirting or pretending to. Then they walked off together, into the darker, more overgrown parts of the park. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. They stopped by a bench. She laughed at something he said. Then, I swear to God, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small syringe. It was quick, practiced. He barely reacted before his body went limp. I couldn't move. I was frozen there, watching my wife lower this stranger to the ground with gentle care, like tucking in a child. She knelt by him, checked his pulse, then pulled out a plastic sheet and garden shears. I ran. I ran all the way back to the car, drove home without thinking. I didn't want to know what she did next. I didn't want to see it. I sat in the living room, shaking, waiting for her to come home. When she did, she looked normal, flushed from the cold, humming a song. She kissed me, told me how funny Claire was, how much she missed going out. She sat next to me, asked if I was okay, said I looked pale. I smiled. I told her I was fine. I even kissed her back. For 3 days, I didn't speak of it. I barely slept. I'd wake up in the night and just stare at her, wondering how many people she'd done this to, wondering why, wondering how I had never noticed. On the 4th day, I confronted her. Not directly. I couldn't. I asked her why she kept that drawer locked. She laughed it off. I asked her about the storage unit. She told me not to worry, just old furniture. Then I said the name of the man she killed. I'd looked it up. His name was Keith. I said it casually, like I'd heard it on the news. She froze, just for a second, a flicker in her eyes. Then she smiled. Who? She asked. I don't know anyone named Keith. That was all I needed. The confirmation, hidden inside denial. I didn't confront her further. I packed a bag the next morning. I left for work, but I never came back. I filed an anonymous tip to the police. I gave them everything, the photos, the notebook, the storage unit number. I didn't leave my name. I couldn't. I didn't want to be the husband who stayed, who loved a woman who buried strangers in gardens. A week later, she was arrested. She was gardening when they came. The irony. The media exploded. They called her the widow gardener. They plastered her face everywhere. But I didn't watch. I didn't want to see that smile on TV, knowing what was behind it. Some nights, I still think about her. I wonder why she did it. What made her that way? I wonder if any part of her love for me was real, or if I was just another role she played. But mostly, I wonder if I ever truly knew her at all.